The biggest disappointment in Baylor's really disappointing loss against Auburn was
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. Appreciate you guys tuning in, making it the first listen of your week here on Labor Day. Look, most people are laboring, so are we. We don't take Labor Day off. This is your team every day, okay? It's not Christmas. We're here for you. And we will be obviously breaking down, recapping more of the nightmarish Auburn game on Friday. What exactly went wrong for Baylor? We'll hear about it from Dave Aranda, the thing that he kept coming back to. We'll give an update on Jackie Marshall's injury and how much that played right into Auburn's hands, certainly in this game. And is the offense off the hook? They had a pretty solid game, but is there some blame to throw to the offensive side of the ball? We'll explore that. And then, of course, I'll go over it. I'll recap it. I'll go through all the things that I got wrong about the Auburn Tigers. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. The biggest disappointment of this game for Baylor, well, that's an open-ended question, really. There's a few different things that you could highlight, I would say. But Dave Aranda really chalked it down to one thing that made the biggest difference in the game. Here's Coach Aranda after the game.
I think the biggest disappointment in all of it, I thought, was just the tackling. I wish the tackling would have been so much better. And, that's something we really have to address. A lot of these plays that hurt us tonight, we are going to see here in a week. And, the team we're playing already runs them. And so we got a lot of work to do.
Not a huge vote of confidence for the SMU game, week 2, because they do have a dynamic dual threat quarterback in Kevin Jennings, much the same way Auburn had Jackson Arnold. And so to hear that that's going to be a similar game plan, it gives me a bit of the heebie-jeebies, honestly, when looking at this next week. And obviously tackling was the worst part about it. Like, there's no missed tackle stat that we can point to, but they were everywhere, man. Everywhere. And I think later on in his press conference, Dave actually put it more succinctly in a way that I think once you guys hear this, you'll say, exactly right. That's what it felt like the whole game.
There's times that we would fit something up right and his 4-yard gain. And there's times where we wouldn't fit something up right, and it was an 8 to 10-yard gain. And so first of all, we got to fit everything up right. And second of all, when we do that, it can't be a 4-yard gain.
That's more like it. Yeah. Even when Baylor was doing things right in this game, Auburn got the push. They dominated the trenches, which is certainly something I'll have to talk about in the third segment for all the things I got wrong about Auburn. I was not surprised that Auburn was better in the trenches, but I did not think that it would be that much of a mismatch, and it was. It was, and that was me having too much confidence on the Baylor side of things, and I was wrong. But that's for the third segment. Clearly, the tackling was horrible in this game. Dave also said in the post-game press conference, yeah, we knew Jackson Arnold was going to run it a lot. So did we watching it, but the players on the field couldn't stop it, and it was the just absolute dagger in the throat. That final touchdown that Auburn scored, where it's 4th and 1, and you knew if they're going to snap it, Jackson Arnold's probably going to read option this and take it for a touchdown with 10 men in the box. And that's exactly what happened. I don't think anybody got a finger on him. So, you look at that play and you say, well, missed tackles wasn't the problem. They didn't even try. They didn't even come close. It was so poor defensively. So Dave says the biggest disappointment is the tackling. And I think for a lot of Baylor fans, the biggest disappointment was Dave Aranda. Again, like, he's been handed the keys here, not just to this program, but micro to this defense. He's fired the other coordinators. He's demoted a coordinator, and he says, it's my show. And it wasn't great last year. And that's kind of what got them to 2-4 in a lot of ways. And now it's starting them off on the wrong foot once again in 2025. You're 0-1 because of your defense. And you need not look any further than the rushing yard stats, man. 307 to 64. when you're outgained by 240 yards on the ground, you're not going to win many football games. 6 yards a carry for the Auburn Tigers. And by the way, it was 6 yards a carry for pretty much all the second half. Like, that was steady Eddie, man. They only attempted one fourth down play, Auburn did, and it was that Jackson Arnold touchdown at the end. Baylor had to do 6. They were 5 of 15 on third down, while Auburn was 5 of 10. 50% is a nice clip on third down. This Baylor defense just couldn't stop them. And I think even more damning than the rush yards total is one that I really highlighted on the oft-watched postgame show. Baylor's defense forced one negative play the entire game. One. And some of you would sit there and be like, was it really forced? It was. They got a good rush on Jackson Arnold, but he threw it backwards. And Baylor should have recovered it. It was the end of the second quarter. It would have put them in just great scoring range to tie the game at 17. They didn't recover it. And so it was a 14-yard loss. That was the only negative play Auburn had all game long. And again, shame on me. I drank the Kool-Aid again. I bought the stock. I said, Dave Aranda, I've seen it happen before. I've seen him take a limited quarterback and really make his life hell, put him in a blender, put an arm behind his back. I thought he was going to do that with Jackson Arnold. He said, we're going to make Jackson think. If we make Jackson think, we're going to win. No shade on Jackson Arnold, but the guy didn't have to think. He did not have to think for 1 second in this game because Baylor made it so easy on him, and they didn't even make him throw. Again, like, you look at this, probably the best receiver arsenal you're going to play all season long. Eric Singleton, 3 catches for 20 yards. Cam Coleman, probably the best skill position player you will see all season. 1 catch on 4 targets for 23 yards. That's it. And you lost by double digits. You lost by 2 touchdowns. Jackson Arnold threw for 108 yards. And they kicked your butt, man. They absolutely kicked your butt in this game. So, yeah, it is tackling. There was 1 or 2 injuries, but it's tough for me. I mean, Eric Singleton was clearly not 100% either. Sawyer Robertson was not 100%, and that offense still had a good game. But to me, the biggest disappointment was Dave Aranda. Give him 8 months to game plan for this team. And with a quarterback with deficiencies, with an offense that sounds like it was going to be a mess coming into this year, and who knows what will happen if someone holds them to 200 rushing yards, say. But they flat out kicked Dave Aranda's defense's butt up and down the field all night. So to me, that was the biggest disappointment. What was it for you? Let me know in the comment section below. Then like the video, subscribe to the channel because it helps us out a lot. Now on the path towards 5,000 subscribers. Coming off a big month, if you can believe it. If you saw all the Auburn fans in McLean Stadium on Friday night, you won't be surprised that it's been a nice month for Locked On Baylor covering that game and previewing that game. Coming up next, we will talk about the injuries and a little bit about the offense. Is the offense off the hook for this game? There were some positives, but did they hurt themselves just as much as the defense did? Let's talk about it next on Locked On Baylor. But first, let's hear from our sponsor over at Rougiette. Rougiette ready, folks. I'm Rougiette ready for some real college football. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. So head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information. Now, back to the show. Back here on Locked On Baylor, and Jackson Arnold just ripped off another 25-yard run as we're doing this episode. Golly, still running all over us. And a big part of that was because Jackie Marshall went out in the first quarter. Is it the entirety of it? No. So don't get in the comments and say that. Not an excuse. But Jackie Marshall going down was a big loss for Baylor, at least in my eyes, and certainly in the eyes of the head coach as well.
You know, that was a hit for us. He's one of our better players on defense, and we went to more 4-down fronts with him. I think he can play a 3-down and 2-gap and play inside to outside, and not having him, we don't really have that ability to do that. So we have to play more just in your gap and one man, one gap, which becomes an issue with the quarterback a little bit. But tried to blitz a little bit more too when he was gone. So we're hoping that we get Jackie back. We've got some players that have been with us now for about 2-3 weeks that we got to bring along. We added them for depth, and the depth is needed right now.
There's some real concern there. The injury update, Jackie Marshall, high ankle sprain, and any of you who have done any kind of physical activity or played a sport know those are really tricky. That they don't have a concrete timeline. It's really, really tough in pretty much any position on the football field when it comes to a high ankle sprain. And Dave hits on it there, and it's something I've talked about, something Hugh Freeze talked about. Great minds thinking alike. But Jackie Marshall does a ton of dirty work for this team. And Dave basically outlines it there by saying, we had to go one-on-one after that because Jackie Marshall could take on 2 guys. He could take on 2 gaps, essentially, and you could stunt around him. No such luck when he's not on the field. And concerning again is Dave said it last year that they didn't have enough depth on defense. Okay. They went out in the portal. They got a bunch of defensive guys kind of here and there. Yeah. Got a bunch of defensive guys, linebackers, nose tackles, obviously defensive backs. And then literally minutes after week 1 is over, before the rest of week 1 has even started, really, Dave Aranda is at the podium saying, well, now that Jackie Marshall's out, we've got a couple of guys who've only been with us a few weeks, and we need to fill them in. Depth's an issue. Like, how does that not get addressed? The Brendan Bett loss to Florida, probably bigger in hindsight than we gave it credit for at the time. But yet again, we're talking about a depth problem with this Baylor defense, with Dave Aranda's side of the ball. Like, how is that not hugely frustrating? I'm not saying fire the guy, but that is so frustrating, man. And gets his record back to, I think, 31-31. So, bang average. And that ain't going to win a lot of games in the Big 12, let alone beat SEC teams. Not good, man. Just not good. So we'll have to track that to see. I doubt for a high ankle sprain he's going to play against SMU. And this is where the front-loaded schedule gets difficult, is when you get an injury, a key injury like that. And if it's 4 weeks, it's a third of the season, which is big enough. But if it's 4 weeks, that's missing time against Auburn, which he did, 3 quarters, SMU, and Arizona State. That is nothing to fool around with. That's a big deal. And if it goes longer than 4 weeks, 2 weeks after Arizona State, you've got Kansas State. Then the picture becomes muddy. A couple of good rushing teams in there, SMU, Kansas State. We'll see how Arizona State replaces Cam Stuart. But again, that's all the defense. That's problems on the defense. The offensive side of things, we got plenty of positives, which I'll talk more about probably on tomorrow's show. We'll go through some positives in this game because there certainly were some, even some on the defensive side, which might surprise you. But looking at this offense, there was still something left to be desired in there. That said, the way they played, against a slightly less talented team than Auburn, they'll win some games doing that. But we've seen how this offense works when they're playing from behind the whole game, right? We saw it last year against BYU. We saw it against LSU. In fact, this game felt a lot like the LSU game. You fell down 2 scores early. They kept you at arm's length. You threw for a bunch of yards. You made plays. It wasn't total loser yards. Like, you made plays, but you weren't within arm's reach of them the rest of the game, I would say. Even when it was 7 points, you couldn't get a stop. And the offensive side of things, like, lest we forget, it was 17 points on 5 red zone trips. And 3 of their touchdowns, all 3 of them, no, sorry, 2 of the 3. 2 of the 3 touchdowns came on 4th down. So you needed that extra down on the money downs to get the ball in the end zone. 17 points on 5 red zone trips is not going to win a lot of games. Not at all, man. You probably left points on the table on the first drive to go for a field goal. You definitely left it on the second drive when you get stopped on 4th down, and then it's the one at the end of the game. Like, that's also not good enough, man. And Sawyer was good in this game. He was good. He was not great. He was good. Threw for 419. Again, passing every down. 27 for 48. Did not throw a pick, although had a couple in Auburn defenders' hands. He could have easily thrown 2 picks in this game. But I don't think we can let the offense completely off the hook here either. Like I say, the way they played is going to win some games in the Big 12. But if you face a team that can run the ball on you, maybe not 300 yards, but control the clock, 24 points is not going to be good enough. And you left points out there on the field. Oh, Cam, it's just week 1. It was week 1 for Auburn as well. And they scored 38. They didn't leave points on the field. You did. You're supposed to be a better offense than Auburn. They have a good defense. They do. I know. But it was good on the offense. Was it good enough in this game? No. It took them a long time to unleash Josh Cameron. He had a couple of big catches in the second half. Obviously, Cole Wilson and Michael Trigg were awesome. I thought Ashton Hawkins played pretty well too. Heard a lot about Lewis Brown IV. 1 catch. Caden Knighton, I would have liked to have seen a little more from him, but I also understand you were down 2 scores, a ton of that game. So to kind of bring it back to the original question, was the offense good? Yes. Is the offense let off the hook for this? No. Defense was much worse. Baylor outgained them in total yards, but you left too many points on the table. 17 points on 5 red zone trips is not good enough. It's just not. And I thought Baylor really stalled out in the middle of that game. And if there was an injury to Sawyer Robertson in there, maybe let's see a little bit of Walker White. The dude's a dual threat. Like, he's a good runner. And instead, we just ran it into the line of scrimmage in between the tackles like 3 straight times. And then Spavital opened up the playbook again in the second half. So it was frustrating. It was mightily frustrating, I would say. But coming up next, we've got to talk about all the things I got wrong. Okay. And how much time you got? That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, a longtime sponsor of the Locked On Podcast Network. Such a longtime sponsor, in fact, that I'm having a really tough time finding their little banner here. Here it is. FanDuel. Found you. Can't escape me. August 26th is FanDuel Futures Day, which happened a few days ago. Not sure why that's the read this week, but you can go to FanDuel right now, take a flyer on the MVP race in the NFL, crown your champion in August. We've still got a couple of days before the NFL kicks off, so get those bets in right now. Call your MVP, your long shot division winner, or again, your Super Bowl champ. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. Futures Day was one day and one day only, but you can do your future bets all the way up until that kicks off, and then even beyond that. FanDuel, play your game. All right, the time has come. Auburn fans, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was wrong about a lot of things. So much, in fact, that I don't think we could fit them all into this segment, but damned if I'm not going to try. Because so many of you have come through and watched the videos, listened to the podcasts for the last couple of weeks, had a lot of nice things to say, and I've enjoyed having you guys. I really have. So I should take the time to mention all the things I got wrong in this game. Okay? The first thing, which is kind of a cop-out, but the first thing, a lot of people said I said Baylor was going to blow out Auburn. It's not exactly true. I said if these couple of things happened, then Baylor would, and most of it was predicated on Auburn turning the football over. They didn't do that. I was wrong about that part. I did think they were going to turn the ball over. No turnovers by either team in this game. So definitely wrong about that. But mostly what I was wrong about was Jackson Arnold. The future of Jackson Arnold in this season, I think, remains to be seen because he didn't have to throw the ball much in this game. But if you don't have to, why would you? He cooked Baylor in this game. Sawyer Robertson probably looked the better pocket quarterback, but Jackson Arnold dominated the game. You know, like we saw it against Alabama last year when he was at OU. If you let him get out of the pocket, run for 100 yards, it's going to be a long night for you. And he did that again. He took a beating, 16 carries, but 137 yards, a couple of touchdowns, 9 yards a carry for Jackson Arnold. I was wrong. I thought Dave Aranda was going to have a game plan that was going to confuse the heck out of Jackson Arnold and was going to play right into Baylor's hands. I was wrong. Dave Aranda did not do that. He did not make Jackson Arnold think. I thought there was going to be a lot of confusion, and maybe there was on the Auburn side. I thought there was going to be a lot of confusion. Maybe there was. But again, Baylor's defense did not force them into mistakes. Like, there might have been some confusion on pass plays, but they just ran the ball right at you all night. And so I was wrong. I was wrong about that. I did not think Jackson Arnold was going to be able to get out of the pocket and run for 140 yards because I didn't think Baylor would allow him to. I was wrong about that. Absolutely. I was definitely wrong about the run game. You know, I kind of put in the caveat the other day. I said Auburn might outgain Baylor on the ground, but I think Baylor will be more effective running the football, especially when it came to the end of the game. Boy, was I wrong about that. I was way wrong about that. Again, 307 rushing yards to 64 for Baylor. I would say that's pretty wrong. The trenches. Zach Blackerby, Locked on Auburn, he said it all summer long. He just said, I think this is where the biggest advantage is for Auburn. Not even wide receiver, not even corner. I think the biggest advantage is the trenches. And Auburn, I knew the whole summer was good in the trenches. They had PFF graded top 10 offensive line in the preseason. Obviously, Keldrick Falk, who had a really nice game, I would say, came up with some big-time plays in this game, had a third down pass batting away. He had a big sack towards the end of the game. I think RG3 said it, closer kind of stuff. I just thought Baylor had improved enough that that Auburn wouldn't dominate the trenches. I was wrong. Auburn dominated the trenches. Like, full stop. And it goes back to that Dave Aranda quote that I mentioned earlier in the full episode, which was even when we aligned right, it was a 4-yard rush. It was way too easy on Auburn in this one. I guess I was right about Michael Trigg, who had a big game, and I was right about the depth at receiver for Baylor, but that didn't help me sleep well on Friday night. Okay, it didn't, because it didn't even get Baylor. Well, it got Baylor close, but it did not obviously give them a win on Friday night. So I was wrong about a ton with Auburn, even with the respect that I gave them in this offseason. It was mostly just thinking that Baylor was going to be better than they were on Friday night. But I was wrong about Jackson Arnold. I was wrong about the trenches. I was wrong about the mistakes in particular. The biggest mistakes that Auburn had were a couple of penalties on punts. They had one defensive penalty that kept a drive alive for Baylor. But other than that, I was totally wrong about it. And I was wrong about Auburn. I'm interested to see. I know a lot of Auburn fans are still watching and listening. This is where we kind of close the book on Auburn, this Auburn game, and the Auburn fans, more or less, here on Locked on Baylor. But I'm interested to hear from you fans of how you think this translates to the rest of the season. Obviously, a lot easier games over the next couple of weeks. even easier games over the next couple of weeks before that OU game to kind of figure out what Jackson Arnold does have with his arm, how this offense looks when it's more balanced. But I am interested to hear, like, are you all in on Jackson Arnold after this game? Because certainly from my standpoint, as someone who covers Baylor every day, I look at it as a really disappointing performance by Baylor. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think. And if I missed something that I got wrong, please let me know in the comment section below. Comment, like, subscribe. Liking the video and subscribing helps out a ton. Of course, you can find us here on YouTube 5 days a week and wherever you get your podcasts as well. Locked on Baylor this week, we will talk about some of the positives that Baylor could take from this game, because there are some on both sides of the ball, believe it or not. And we'll start taking a look at that SMU matchup, college football playoff participant kind of SMU, coming up on Saturday on the CW. Can't wait to see you all there. Thank you so much for making it your first listen today and every day. Thank you to the Auburn fans who have followed along for the last month, whether it was out of hate or out of pure love. I loved having you guys here. For the Baylor fans, thank you. Thank you even more, because you're the ones who make me do this every single day. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. And we will see you tomorrow on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.